There was a time in the Inner Sphere where the idea of a periphery-built assault mech would be considered mad. The idea they would be able to design one, and then produce it, seemed even more distant from reality. In the Blackest Era and Dark Age, there would be a change, and this would be embodied by the Brotherhood of Randis' development of the Hawkwolf, an assault mech weighing in at 80 tons. The initial production of the Hawkwolf in 3076 went nearly unnoticed. It wasn't until the very end of the 31st century that this machine would begin to see export to other nearby states, such as the Calderon Protectorate, the Taurian Concordat, and the flawed Coalition. Over time, this would expand yet further to include the Franc Reaches, and even the Inner Sphere state of the Federated Suns. Regardless of what you can say about the design in a series of ways, it most definitely does show through its success in exports, even to the Inner Sphere, and that the periphery is not nearly the backwater it once was. It is even more impressive when one thinks about the fact that the world of Randis 4, the home of the Brotherhood, is a single world state in the periphery, without the kind of support and infrastructure that the Taurian Concordat has, which is traditionally one of the more impressive, industrially, peripheral powers. Many of the engagements that the Hawkwolf sees in the darkness of the periphery are unlikely to be documented or seen as noteworthy by those in the Inner Sphere. But nonetheless, this machine has been tested by the fire of combat for decades now in the darkness that is the Inner Sphere, in interstate conflicts, and in the hellfire that are devastating raids by pirates and other brigands. This periphery warrior is no slouch. Built off of the HWK-3F, a primitive mech and prototype, the HWK-4F is a modern battlemech with a series of smart choices for this periphery-centric machine. To start with, likely due to technological limitations as well as practicality, it has a standard internal structure, which weighs 8 tons. It also comes with a standard gyro and cockpit for the battlemech. Being a product of Hope Industry Works, it uses an in-house communication system, which is the Hope M13 Howler, as well as an in-house targeting and tracking system, the Hope Hawkeye. One thing which is important for machines which are put into the periphery militaries, or are purchased by independent planets, is that these machines do not require extensive upkeep. The HWK-4F does this with its simple, but not primitive design, and as a result benefits from the easy-to-maintain quirk. Buyers will have the confidence that they can put this into the field as needed, and without needing to spend beyond what they should. To give a bit of its physical descriptors beyond this, the machine also benefits from several characteristics. First, it has protected actuators, giving it a layer of defense against infantry swarm assaults. In addition to this, it has the no arms quirk, for obvious reasons when one looks at the mech's appearance. Finally, it has the fast reload quirk. This helps its MML weapon systems, giving it an opportunity to change ammunition types more easily. There isn't much fancy here for the Hawkwolf, due to wanting to enhance its durability, or by simply not having the ability to do much else. The HWK-4F Hawkwolf comes equipped with a veteran 320 Pitband Fusion standard engine, which weighs in at 22.5 tons. This gives it a maximum speed of 64 km per hour, or 6 movement points in the tabletop game. For an assault, this is more than adequate, and allows this particular vehicle to move at the standard speed of battle line operations expected for Inner Sphere and periphery forces. Though this is quite a heavy weight for the era it is produced in, with the 320 taking up more than 25% of the Hawkwolf's overall tonnage. The greatest weakness this machine has is its heat management abilities. Likely due to the technological limitations of its production in the region of the periphery that it is in, this homegrown assault mech has a total of 14 single heat sinks, giving it a sinking capacity of 14. There is no way to describe this as impressive, It is simply not. It also generates 16 heat when firing all of its weapons, so this may not be the end of the world, but should it be walking or running and needing to fire all of its systems, it will begin to degrade in its capabilities after 2 turns of this kind of engagement. It also spends 4 precious tons on this, which could be spent on other systems. Still, for a periphery mech, and a homegrown one at that, these kinds of limitations are disappointing, but not unexpected. In a way, perhaps, the Hawkwolf is a faster, smaller longbow battlemech, though with a more limited armament. Missile systems are relatively inexpensive to produce for battlemechs and tanks, and offer good returns for ammunition invested. It also means this mech is meant to operate at longer ranges, making the machine itself safer in some ways, as it won't be directly exposed to combat ideally. For its primary systems, it uses a pair of Delta Dart LRM-15 launchers. These are a common system and have been seen frequently for centuries. The launcher has 4 tons of ammunition to keep it fed, which is more than adequate, and each launcher occupies 1 of its limited arms. They can lay down reasonable indirect and direct fire, and work best in the support of other mechs, which would ideally punch holes in enemy armor first, before the LRMs are launched. As a backup weapon and to complement these, it has a pair of Doombud MML-5 launchers, with 1 in each side torso. These can fire LRM rounds or SRM rounds, and it has 1 ton of ammunition for each type of attack. These can give it some defense in close when it switches to its SRM ammunition, in essence. While all of these missiles are fine, it does leave an open weakness for the Hawkwolf, which is that it has no direct fire weapon backups, or energy weapons. It's wholly ammunition dependent. Should it run drive ammunition, it is simply a victim for whichever mech comes across it. It will also struggle to defend itself at close range regardless, especially if it finds itself knocked over at any point with its limited arms. There's nothing particularly fancy for the Hawkwolf defenses either. First, it does use a case for all of its ammunition, which is mounted on the right torso, meaning that should something catastrophic happen, it can escape the battlefield to be refit and repaired, if lucky. Outside of this, it comes with 12 tons of Hope Shield armor, which is standard plating. This confers the Hawkwolf 192 points of defense. This is fine in the kinds of roles that the Hawkwolf is expected to occupy, but it does mean that it may struggle to survive against more modern weapon systems, should it become the subject of a bombardment from, say, a heavy Gauss rifle or an assortment of clan ERPPZs. Still, it is a simple armor arrangement. It's not expensive, and it's not hard to repair its armor should it be damaged. It's a simple design, and has simple protection needs. The Hawkwolf is a modern mech, largely built with a bygone era's technology, but it is very much the norm for many periphery-based designs. It is simply surprising that we see a full 80-ton production model. While this doesn't seem that impressive at first glance, one must remember, 1 century earlier, the entirety of the Capellan Confederation could not construct any battlemechs bigger than 65 tons. They would have to import chargers and heavily modify them to have real assault mechs of any sort. The Hawkwolf keeps up with battle line units. It offers indirect fire support, and is built to be able to escape should its ammunition be detonated or run dry. It's a very standard support mech, and has a series of functional and practical quirks that will mostly help it in combat, minus its limited arms. Well priced, easy to maintain, and functional against most adversaries, even if it is limited in its overall use due to it being rigidly locked into a long-range support role, it's not hard to see how the Hawkwolf ended up in so many states. It is simple, reliable, and does the job which doesn't expose it to much threat typically. On top of that, it's inexpensive, which means that periphery realms, independent planets, or planetary militias within great houses can all procure this mech, and get a reasonable return on their investment should worst come to worst, and they find themselves embroiled in a conflict. Even advanced battle mechs, such as clan mechs, don't enjoy the experience of being indirectly bombarded by waves of LRMs. Whether they are primitive or more advanced doesn't matter. Sometimes simple works. The Hawkwolf won't by any means wow crowds with its feats of engineering or advanced weapons, but it's not meant to. It's meant to be an affordable 80-ton mech that throws rockets at its opponent. It does that just fine. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I do updates very frequently, and you'll be happy with the content, I think. There is also a link to the Ironwind Metals page for this particular miniature in the video description below. Should you be interested in the Hawkwolf, you can find the ability to procure it there. Also, a huge thank you to all the YouTube members for this channel. When you hit the join button and become a member, you take an extra step in supporting the content on this channel, and I can't thank you enough. Because this content is only possible because of viewers like you. And with that, I will see you all in the comment section below.